John Stuart Skinner was an American lawyer, publisher, and editor. Biography. Skinner began practicing law as an attorney at the age of 21 in 1809. On March 10, 1812, he married Elizabeth G. Davies, the stepdaughter of Theodore Bland. Also in 1812, President James Madison made a special commission and selected Skinner to become a government agent to receive and forward the ocean mails, to furnish the vessels with necessary supplies, and to see that nothing transpired prejudicial to the interests of the Republic or offensive to enemies, thus admitted under the guardianship of a flag of truce. Skinner soon obtained the duty of agent for prisoners of war and parole. In 1813, Skinner was ordered to move his offices from Annapolis to Baltimore. He then accepted a purser's commission in the Navy for the duration of the war. On September 3, 1814, Skinner, as the prisoner of war exchange officer, was selected with Francis Scott Key by 4th President James Madison for a mission to release Drive William Beans, who was being held prisoner by the British. Skinner and Key went on board General Ross's ship on September 7, the HMS Tonnant, that was anchored in the Chesapeake Bay. They were carrying a flag of truce and a letter authorized by President Madison setting out the case that Dr. Beans should not have been arrested and taken prisoner because he had been an unarmed civilian when he previously arrested some British soldiers. Skinner even had letters from these British soldiers that he presented to Ross praising the American doctors on how well the British soldiers were treated. This was an argument that Ross should release Dr. Beans because of this excellent medical care. It is not known for sure if Dr. Beans, being a medical doctor, was among those that treated the wounded British soldiers. Skinner with Key negotiated with Ross for nearly a week on board his ship, and finally Ross agreed on the release of Dr. Beans. Upon the release of Beans, they were not allowed to return to Baltimore because of key information they had collected by being on board Ross's ship. From September 7 to 13, they were transferred from the Tonnant to another British warship, the HMS Surprise, and then to their own sloop. They were just allowed to watch the attack on Fort McHenry from their own sloop, known as a cartel, a truce boat, under British guard. The sloop was tethered to a British ship about 8 miles from Fort McHenry and guarded by a number of British Marines to prevent any escape. The morning of September 13, at 7 o'clock, the British bombardment of Baltimore began. The city was defended by Fort McHenry in the harbor. Skinner, Key, and Beans initially watched a huge American flag flying above Fort McHenry made by Mary Pickersgill as a representation of the American resolve to defend Baltimore. The bombarding of the American forces at Fort McHenry during the Battle of Baltimore went into the night of September 13, with them not knowing how the battle was going. When the smoke cleared on the morning of September 14, Key along with Skinner and Beans were able to see the American flag still waving. Fort McHenry had not been taken by the British. On the way back to Baltimore, Key was inspired to write a poem that became the American national anthem, the Star-Spangled Banner. Quote, "It was Skinner whom Francis Scott Key first showed his work to and had it published." Publications. Skinner established in 1819 The American Farmer, the first agricultural journal in the United States to attain prominence. The first recognized agricultural periodical, however, was the Agricultural Museum that started publication in 1810. Skinner's periodical was warmly accepted by Thomas Jefferson, Andrew Jackson, and Timothy Pickering. In 1829, Skinner published the first American Turf Register and Sporting Magazine. His devotion to this work enticed him to dispose of The American Farmer the same year. Skinner sold this magazine after publishing it successfully for 10 years. In 1845 Skinner began a new publication, the Farmer's Library and Monthly Journal of Agriculture. This was succeeded in 1848 by the Plough, the Loom, and the Anvil, which he published until his death. The periodicals that Skinner published gave a new stimulus to agricultural pursuits and added to the general popularity of outdoor sports. Positions. Skinner was postmaster of Baltimore from 1816 until 1849. Skinner served with Joshua Bowney and became known as Maryland's Paul Revere. Skinner was at one time chief of the Agricultural Bureau of the United States Patent and Trademark Office. In 1824 General Lafayette selected Skinner as agent to manage a 20,000-acre grant of land that he had received by Congress. Edited works: Ganon on Milch Cows, Letter on Nautical Education, Christmas Gift to Young Agriculturists, Ewart on the Horse, Every Man His Own Cattle Doctor, The Dog and Sportsman, Farmer's Library and Monthly Journal of Agriculture, Elements of Agricultural Chemistry from the French. Foreign works edited: Alexander Petzold's Lectures on Agricultural Chemistry, Henry Stevens's Book of the Farm, Albrecht Daniel Thur's Principles of Agriculture.